So hi, welcome to the new video, and today we are going to see our next question, that is question number 283, move zeros question. So basically in this question we have given an input array, and in this array there are some zero elements and some non-zero elements, and we have to move all the zero elements at the end. So let's see the example. So this is our input array, and in this input array there are some zero elements and some non-zero elements. So we have to move all these zero element at the end of the array, and all the non-zero elements are at the start of the array. So, and we have to also maintain in place, that means the one should be come at first, and after that one the next non-zero element should be 3, and after that 12 the next non-zero element should be there. So let's see some approaches of these questions. So our first approach is brute force approach, and this brute force approach uses an extra array. So our first step in this approach is create a new array result of same size of our nums array, and in second step we traverse the original array, that means nums array, and copy all the non-zero elements from the nums array to the our new result array. And for this copying we initialize an index which stores the elements in result array. After copying all the non-zero elements, we fill the remaining part of the result array with zeros, and lastly we copy all the elements from result array to the nums array. And this approach uses time complexity of order of n and space complexity of order of n due to using an extra array. So let's see approach number 2. This is two pointer optimal swap approach, and this is most efficient approach. So the first step is initialize an index known as last non-zero index at 0. So basically we initialize this index at 0, and then in second step we loop from I is equal to 0 to n minus 1, and in this loop at every iteration we check whether the nums of I is equal to 0 or not. If it is non-equal to 0, that means a non-zero element is present, then we swap nums of I with nums of last non-zero index, and again then we increment the last non-zero element. So let's see an example of this approach. So basically we have input 0, 1, 0, 3, 12, and we have to move all the zeros at the end. So we in the first step we have to initialize last non-zero index at 0. So last non-zero index at 0, and next step we gonna loop from I is equal to 0 to n minus 1, that means this entire array. So first I is equal to 0 for here. So we gonna check whether the nums of I is not equal to 0 or not. If it is not equal to 0, that means non-zero element, then we swap. And here in the first step this is equal to 0, so we are not gonna swap it. Next then incremented I, and again after incrementing I we again check this nums of I is equal to 0 or not, and here it is not equal to 0, that means non-zero element. So we gonna swap it nums of Y, that means this, and nums of last non-zero index. So last non-zero index is at 0, that means nums of 0, that means this. We gonna swap this, and after swapping this becomes like 1, 0, 0, 3 and 12. Then again incremented our last non-zero to 1. After incrementing, again we are gonna loop from this and incremented I. So here is our I, again it is not equal to 0, again it is equal to 0, then again we gonna increment I here, and this time it is not equal to 0, that means non-zero element. Again we swap it nums of I with nums of last non-zero, and last non-zero element is at 1, so nums of 1 and nums of 1 is a, and we swap these elements, and then it becomes like 1 3 0 0 12. Again we incremented our nums our last non-zero index, from 1 it becomes 2, and again our we loop from uh, loop in the array. So our last I is here, and after incrementing this goes here, and again it checks whether our nums of I is equal to 0 or not, and here it is non-zero element, so again we swap with nums of I with nums of last non-zero element, and last non-zero is at 2, so nums of 2 and so we swap with nums of 2, and here nums of 2 is here, and our we again swap this, and after swapping this becomes 1 3 12 0 and 0, and hence we find our solution. And this approach uses order of n time complexity, and there is no extra array is used here, that's why the space complexity is order of 1. So let's see code of this problem. So here given is the problem. Given an integer array nums, move all zeros at the end of the array and while maintaining the relative order. So here is the example 0 1 0 3 12, and the output is 1 3 12 0 0, and all the 0 elements are at the end of the array. So let's see our first approach, and your first step is and creating an another array result of same size of our nums array. So firstly we have created our new array named as result, which is of the same size of our nums array, and the second step is copy all the non-zero elements to the result array. For copying this, and we copy all the non-zero elements to the result array, and maintaining the order of this result array, we have initialized an another index named as index. We have initialized an index 0, then we copy all the non-zero elements to the result of the array, and we for copying we are checking whether the element is non-zero or not. If element is non-zero, then we copy it with the result of the array. And after copying we incrementing our index, uh, and this if block copies all the non-zero element to the result array, and after copying all the non-zero element, the remaining, and the next step is remaining part make zeros, and after copying all the non-zero elements in the result array, the remaining elements of the array by default becomes 0. Then last step is copy all the elements from the result array to the nums array. and hence we have find the solution. Let's run it, and it's properly run it, and lastly we have submit this solution. Hence we run our brute force approach properly. So let's see our next approach, that means two pointer optimal swap approach. And the first step of this approach is initialize an index named as last non-zero at 0. So firstly we are gonna initialize an index named as last non-zero at 0. Then next step is we are gonna loop from I is equal to 0 to n minus 1, and in this step we are gonna check whether nums of I is not equal to 0 or not. If it is not equal to 0, then we are gonna swap the nums of I with nums of last non-zero element, and by doing this looping we move all the non-zero elements at the front and zero elements at the last. So we are gonna looping, and we in this looping we are gonna check if whether the nums of I is non-zero or not. If it is non-zero, then we are gonna swap it with our nums of last non-zero. After this we are gonna incrementing last non-zero. uh, Due to this looping we move all the non-zero elements at the front and all the zero element at the last. So let's run it, and here we are successfully run it. Let's submit it. So our code works properly fine. Thank you for watching this.